Tim's collection for me is an unrivaled trip down memory lane, least of all because on many of the occasions that these pictures were taken, I was there at the time, but also I think, certainly against the current climate, the need for nostalgia and taking that trip down memory lane has never been more important. And I think for me personally, sort of revisiting some of these images, privileged as I was to be there on many of the occasions when the pictures were taken, it's so much more than that. It's the story behind the images. And we all have our favourite boy band, our favourite singer, actor, actress, and this collection has the most extraordinary overreaching arc across several decades, more decades than perhaps Tim would care for me to repeat. And I think that's why there's something for everyone, because I think more now than ever, we appreciate what it means to revisit those moments, and particularly the stories that for all of us, whether you were there or not, that surround those moments. So it's fantastic to see it all together, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. I do have a favourite piece because many people, and this will come as a huge shock to people watching this, have often mistaken me for Patrick Swayze. And if you're ever lucky to meet him, you'll know he was a wonderful soul and a very warm man, so that's probably where we differ. But Patrick Swayze I'm strangely drawn to. The Robbie Williams picture that's in the collection currently, drawn to as well, because I remember the boys of Take That when I first started out in journalism, and it was around about that time that they became very, very big indeed. So those would be the two personally that I would pick out. So I have known Tim for 30 years, which seems extraordinary because neither of us, well, certainly myself, we don't look old enough. And I did my first ever job with Tim for a TV listings magazine back in the early 90s that was called Inside Soap, and I just graduated from a journalism school, which may come as a huge surprise to people that have watched me for the last 25 years on Good Morning Britain. But yes, I am a trained journalist. And I did my first ever job with Tim, and we went up to Emmerdale to shoot some of the cast there. And it was the beginning of an enduring friendship and also some spectacular adventures. And a lot of them are behind me now because through Tim, I got to interview some of the world's greatest celebrities and was lucky enough to be around and in that orbit when he took those photographs. So that was a huge privilege for me, and I learnt a great deal from him, and the wonderful talent that Tim had whenever he was with a subject, all of which you see behind me, was that he made them feel at ease. He made the entire job feel like a joy. And so as a consequence, he was the go-to photographer at the time for record companies, film and television, because he made the whole company and the whole crew feel comfortable. And so he always got the best results. So whilst you see the images behind me, the stories behind them are the reason that these images exist, because that's why they are so good, because he made it such a happy set to be on. The Brighton box, for me personally, is the perfect place, certainly for Tim's collection, because it's intimate. It's the perfect venue if you're just strolling through the lanes and you're stumbling across a piece of history, a piece of pop culture that's very, very unique. So if you're looking for a home for that, then all roads lead to the Brighton box.
Well, I left school at 16 and went to art college to do a foundation course. And it was mainly fine art orientated, but I decided that photography was more an immediate way of working, that I could get a result quicker. So I decided to follow that field. I went into photography and did a photography course for 3 years after that, and then ended up coming to London, and I got a job at Radio Times. That was my first job at Radio Times, on a retainer basis, and then ended up from then on freelancing for different magazines, and then into music and all sorts of different things. So that was the way I worked. But But the photography was a way of working, was an immediate form of art. So I felt that was the best way to go for me. The career path of photography, I was always interested in films and television and music, so that was a field I wanted to get into. So when I started working at Radio Times, that was into working with artists, actors, actresses, pop music, this sort of field. So that was something I was always interested in. To put this collection together, it's quite a few months. Because my agency, I go through Getty, was a picture agency, and I had to go up to them and go through the files, partly because of the COVID lockdowns for the last 2 years. That has been quite a job that's taken quite a long time. And then it's quite a considerable amount of time to go through the boxes and find all the transparencies and negatives, because this is pre-digital era. So all this stuff has to be dug out, scanned, retouched, then prepared for the exhibition. So it's taken quite a few months. There's lots of things that I like, but in this exhibition there's a picture of Janet Jackson, and within that there's a story to that, because I really liked her. And when I photographed her, it was at the Mayfair Hotel, and I had about an hour and a half to 2 hours with her. And when I photographed her, everybody had to leave the room. Security, everybody. She insisted on everybody leaving the room. And I had that time alone with her, and that was quite a fun experience. I did ask her while I was photographing her, did you manage to get out while you're in London visiting? And she said, oh yes, she was with her boyfriend at the time. She said, yes, I went out down to Piccadilly to the McDonald's. But I said, you went to McDonald's? She said, oh yes. I went to McDonald's. I said, you weren't recognised? She said, well, I put a cap on and went down there, and people did take the odd glance, but nobody recognised me. And I thought, well, isn't that a wonderful story about her, that she's such a normal sort of person that she can do that. So that's the memory I have of spending that time with her, that we enjoyed I enjoyed her company, really. So she was good fun. Yes, it's been great fun working with the Brighton box, and Sean's been very supportive, and Richard as well, and really encouraging me to go through my catalogue of photography and put something together that I think represents a good selection of work of mine, and beginnings of future exhibitions, I hope.